New research has come out showing the price it costs to fill your tank with gasoline using synthetic fuels. Synthetic gasoline, synthetic diesel, whatever. It's all bogus. It's complete nonsense. The European Union is being held hostage by Germany to a scam. It's a scam perpetrated by the oil and gas lobby. They know that it's a joke. They know that actually no one buying these efuels car will actually be using efuels. They know the sales of efuels using this new so-called carbon capture technology, which has not even been commercialized, will be almost non-existent from 2035. Efuels, yeah, sounds great. Even if it was great, no one's going to buy it. Here's why. Germany has officially derailed the European Union's quest to ban the sale of combustion engine vehicles from 2035 onwards. Germany claims the sales of their combustion engines will be carbon neutral. It won't hurt anyone, they say, and it will be affordable. Is that true? Well, some numbers are out. So-called statisticians who I believe really don't quite understand the technology they're looking at have released some results. They say the price will be approximately 50% higher, but this is wrong. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam Evans and I'm coming to you from Bangkok in Thailand. And yes, it is true that Germany themselves, in fact, one political party in the German government, have been able to derail the entire bill, get it changed to allow combustion engine vehicles to continue to be produced and allow those vehicles to continue to pollute the atmosphere. In particular, pollute the atmosphere in dense cities where most of the problems are caused. That's the areas where you're seeing people get cancer. That's the areas where you're seeing people actually die from emissions. And yeah, 6 million people per year, they say, die. World Health Organization says those numbers, primarily from the fumes and the other pollutants that come from gasoline-powered vehicles. Obviously, those numbers dwarf the numbers from COVID-19. Much, much worse than COVID-19. I'm really still perplexed as to why the media doesn't take any of this remotely seriously. Now, Clean Technica has published some content which comes from transportenvironment.org saying that it will cost around 50% more in 2035 to fuel your vehicle, your gasoline or your diesel internal combustion engine vehicle with e-fuels. Now, unknown to many, e-fuels or synthetic petrol or diesel can actually be made from hydrogen and CO2, even though the fuel is burned in engines. So they release similar CO2 in cities and everywhere else they burned and pollution as a conventional car. But the only way that they can actually be made the only way the fuel can be made is if it comes from using direct air capture technology to capture CO2 from the air. Now, that technology is not yet commercialized. So these numbers are purely hypothetical. They could be 100 times higher. They could be 10 times higher. It could be less. There's no way of really knowing because it's a brand new, uncommercialized technology that has never really worked so far. There's been lots of companies try to commercialize CO2 air capture, but it doesn't work on a global scale when you compare it to other ways of carbon capture. Now, they say that capturing this CO2 from the air can neutralize the CO2 that's actually burnt by the fuel in your car. Now, obviously, these synthetic fuels have, since 2017 or even earlier, been pushed on us by who? Who is using these marketing tricks to push these fuels on us? Well, there's no question. It is the oil lobby in an attempt to derail the switch to clean electric motors. They want to stop their profits from disappearing, so they've conned people who are easily gullible into believing that this technology is viable, sustainable, or really going to help the planet. It won't do any of that. So this study says that it'll cost approximately 210 euros to fill your car with synthetic fuel. Aussies, that's around about 330 Australian dollars. Right now, the cost is around 140 euros. So they're saying it's only going to go up in price from 140 euros to 210 euros. But what does it actually cost today? I mean, if you wanted to fill your car up today with these so-called pretend clean fuels, e-fuels, I mean, the fact that it's called e-fuel is a joke, but anyhow, if you wanted to do it today, what would it cost you? Well, the price today is 6 times higher than normal fuel. So today you'd be paying around 900 euros to fill your car. Now, if you own, say, a Lamborghini or a Bugatti Chiron or some kind of mega supercar, maybe a Ferrari, maybe you'd be willing to pay 900 euros to fill your car. I mean, to me, that sounds insane, no matter how rich you are. Anyhow, Porsche themselves even say that that's what they expect the price to be within a couple of years' time. So they're saying now that the price is actually higher than that today. And in a few years' time, that's what the price will go down to. So even the manufacturers of these vehicles themselves, who are trying to stop this bill from going through. Obviously, Porsche doesn't want it to go through. They've been very public in saying they support e-fuels. They've invested into e-fuels. In fact, they've invested hundreds of millions into even the e-fuel power plant in Chile right now. But even they say these numbers are lunacy. The cost will be far higher. Far, far higher than these numbers say. So would the average motorist even be willing to pay twice the price? If it's at 6 to 7 times today, would they be willing to pay, say, 300 euros today? Well, I mean, that's 500 Australian dollars or around 350 US dollars. But Americans, keep this in mind. We're talking about European cars here. They have smaller petrol tanks, smaller engines, much smaller engines on average than your vehicles. So these prices we're looking at would be significantly higher for gas-powered vehicles in the United States, in Canada, in Mexico, etc. Now, the best, most conservative, positive, dreamy analysts say that e-fuel could cost around $3 per litre at the pump in Germany in 2030. Around 3 euros per litre. That's 50% more expensive than fuel costs today. And the reason is because of the complex and energy-intensive production process. It's wasting so much energy to produce these fuels. This would cost the average driver around 2,500 euros per year, an analysis by Transport and Environment says. But that's based on drivers in Europe who drive much shorter distances than most people around the world. Alex Keynes, Clean Vehicles Manager at TNE, said Chancellor Scholz is threatening to pull the rug from under the European Green Deal for the sake of saving pollution combustion engines. The higher cost of e-fuels will mean that only the wealthy could afford them, while everyone else could be pushed into getting around the rules and using fossil petrol instead. Motorists and the climate will be the losers. Germany's push to power new cars with scarce e-fuels would also increase CO2 emissions and oil consumption from the existing car fleet. Allowing combustion engines to be sold after 2035 would displace sales of up to 46 million zero-emission electric cars by 2050, while also depriving existing cars of the synthetic fuel they need to decarbonize. If e-petrol is used in new cars, vehicles already on the road would burn an additional 135 billion litres of fossil petrol and emit an extra 320 metric tons of CO2 by 2050 than if e-petrol was available for the existing fleet. But this isn't the problem. Here's the problem. This whole thing doesn't work. None of it makes any sense. Okay, you can obviously see through this. It's a ruse. The synthetic fuels thing, the oil and gas lobby want you to believe this is a solution. Now, even if, let's say, even if everyone did start using e-fuels from 2035, this actually doesn't work because, well, what's going to happen? This is exactly what will happen. I'll explain the scenario. You go and buy your car, your gasoline burning car in 2035 because you say, yeah, don't worry, I'll be using e-fuels in this vehicle. You turn up to your petrol station, you put in whatever fuel you want. I mean, no one's going to stop selling gasoline or petrol, diesel, right, in 2035. It's only the cars manufactured from 2035 that you'll be expected as a good citizen to do the right thing and go and pay, 5 to 10 times more for your petrol, choosing the e-fuel pump, right? The e-fuel pump, that's the one you're going to choose. You really think that's going to happen? You really think they're not going to just look the other way and use the petrol, the gas, the diesel, which costs 1/5 or no more than half the price? No more than half the price. The chances of anyone doing that are zero. The sales of synthetic fuels at the stations that are selling it will be almost zero because no one will be buying it. How on earth would they actually enforce this rule? You really think people are going to look at the car that are in the gas station? They're going to look out at the screen and go, no, sir, that is clearly a 2035 BMW 3 Series. That's not the 2034 model. If you can't use petrol for that one, you got to pay for the e-fuels. That will never happen. The chances of that happening are zero. The oil and gas lobby, they know this. They know that this is a sham, that obviously they're going to pretend that all these new cars will just go on. All the owners of these cars will go and do the right thing and pay for the e-fuel. The likelihood of that is exactly zero because there's no way to police this. How the hell would you police millions and millions and millions of car sales? How would you police millions of people, right? And know which models are using e-fuels and which ones are not? It's almost impossible to work this out on a global scale. Just think it through. We're talking billions of users of cars, right? Or at least if we were talking about Europe putting into place this rule, we're still talking about hundreds of millions. And somehow they'll magically come up with a system that will make sure that everyone who buys a car from 2035 will definitely pay only for e-fuels. That won't happen. So all the analysis that follows on from the European Union, from the Commission, from all these environmental agencies, from Clean Technica themselves, it's all fuzzy and nice and it's interesting, but actually it's irrelevant because no one will buy this fuel. So yes, you can say the price of a tank will cost you 300 euros or could cost you 1,000 euros based on today's price, but it won't. It'll cost whatever the price of gasoline and diesel is, because that's what new car buyers will choose to use. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.